Hi, I'm Josiah.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And this is Worth Watching. From Ridley Scott, the director of Gladiator, comes Gladiator 2, The Mosesing.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Worth Watching. Today we're reviewing Exodus, Gods and Kings.
So this movie is, of course, at least loosely based on the Exodus story from the Bible. The Jewish people are slaves under the ruling of Rameses II of Egypt. And the whole plot of this movie is that Rameses' adopted brother, Moses, is actually Jewish himself, even though he and Rameses do not know that. And he is the chosen one who is chosen by God to help liberate the chosen people, the Israelites, from oppression in Egypt.
So one thing I really loved about this movie was I thought it was gorgeous. All the sets and the costumes, I'm pretty sure they were very correct to what they were supposed to be, but I thought they were really beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this movie is it is on a huge, grand, epic scale. Like in Prince of Egypt, all of the monuments and things in Egypt in this movie are way larger than they ever should have been, but I think that works really well in the scope and scale of this movie, making it just feel massive and epic. And credit where credit is due, both Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton, the stars of this movie, are really, really good in their roles. I think Christian Bale actually did a surprisingly good job as Moses. And even though everyone was complaining when Joel Edgerton was cast as Ramses, going, why is an Australian playing Rameses II of Egypt? I think as an actor, he does a really good job in the role. However, that being said, those are really the only two characters in the movie who get any development whatsoever. Sigourney Weaver is in this movie. You wouldn't know it because she's in it for 4.5 minutes total and gets maybe 2 lines of dialogue. Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad is in this movie. He gets maybe 6 lines of dialogue, most of which are one word, like, come on, follow, run. That's like his entire character in the movie. You never get any development behind him. Ben Kingsley is a great actor, also in this movie. Gets 1 monologue and maybe 5 other lines. John Turturro's in this too. He gets a little more dialogue than the rest, but is still gone by 20 minutes into the movie. The whole cast of this movie, and cast of characters as well, is really wasted just to make this the Moses and Ramses show. And it just made me really annoyed that you have all these great actors completely wasted, and their characters are never developed. It made you not care about what the characters are trying to do, what their motivations were, and why things were happening in the order they were happening.
I feel like they might have did that partially on the fact that they assumed that everyone going into this movie knew the story of Moses and all of the other characters, so they assumed, oh, everyone's going to come in knowing who this person is and who that, but I feel like they really should have explained everyone.
Yeah, I feel like part of this is just Ridley Scott's fault in general, because the exact same thing happened on The Counselor too. In that movie, you don't care about the characters, they're not developed well, no one has a lot of dialogue, you just throw all these big name actors into this mix and don't do anything with them and just hope that the audience is going to go to see these actors play characters that don't matter. And that seems to kind of be Ridley Scott's thing these days, and it really bothers me.
Another problem I found with this movie was that it felt extremely long. I think it was, what, 2.5 hours long? And it really felt it because the pacing was really bad, and I think they could have paced it a little better. It felt really choppy at times, and there was parts in there that didn't matter that they put in, and I just felt it could have been paced better.
Right, and that's, again, another thing, is this movie is loosely based on the story of Exodus. They take a lot of creative liberties, and unlike, I hate to compare it to Prince of Egypt again, but Prince of Egypt took liberties too, but there were ones that made sense to make the story flow better. In this movie, the liberties they took just start and stop the pace in a way that makes it really hard to watch and hard to care about anything, and it just makes it drag on forever. And at other moments, they'll skip over things that you would think would be important plot details.
For instance, Moses goes into this town, I don't remember what it was called, but he meets his future wife, Zipporah. And literally, the next scene, they get married. So,
right.
They barely even said anything to each other, and all of a sudden they're getting married. It was like, what is the point of that? It was just not, they shouldn't have done that.
It felt awkward and broke up the pacing of the movie even more, just something that they could have focused more time on rather than other things. Another thing I've been seeing a lot in historical drama movies recently is people doing things in them that are very much modern things for the sake of just making them feel more exciting or something. For instance, there are hanging scenes in this movie with actual hangman's nooses with coils and things on a scaffolding made of wood. That did not exist in ancient Egypt. Everyone knows that did not exist in ancient Egypt. There's also, Ramses is collecting anti-venom in little glass cups with a skin stretched over them with snakes the way we do nowadays. Neither of those things had any bearing on the plot. They could have been done in other ways, but instead they did them that way in a way that just makes you go, that doesn't make sense. It's like those stupid amphibious landing vehicles in Ridley Scott's Robin Hood movie.
So on a scale of A through F, what would you give this movie?
I'd give it a D, simply because I had a lot of issues with it. It did do some things right. The cinematography was great. The scale was epic. Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton were both great in the movie. It looked phenomenal, but everything else was wrong with the movie. Just Ridley Scott seems to not know how to structure a movie anymore. What would you rate it?
I'd have to give it a D also. I felt like it wasn't horrible enough to give an F because I wasn't completely bored and it wasn't that bad. And there were still things I enjoyed, like the visuals and things like that. So I'd have to give it a D. Thanks for watching this episode of Worth Watching.
Remember to like the video if you like it, comment down below with your thoughts on Exodus, Gods, and Kings, and of course subscribe if you want to see more. Bye.